Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. Big thanks to you guys for attending. Before we get started, I wanted to give a quick introduction to our speakers, so myself and James. My name is Brian Dang. I am the Associate Product Manager in charge of guiding the development for our CRM. And I came from the technology side of the world, so my main role here is getting to learn more about the flooring industry and translating that over to our more technical team, so that way we can make sure we're providing the right solution for you guys. And then that's enough about me. I'll hand it over to James, and he can tell you a bit about himself as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Brian. Hey, guys, I'm James. I'm one of the many Jameses here at MeasureSquare, and I'm happy to share my first webinar experience with all you guys. I'm pretty new to the software field, but I've been working in construction for well over a decade, and have several years of experience with commercial flooring in particular. So I'm looking forward to introducing you guys to these powerful features. And Brian, I'll hand that back to you.
All right. Thank you. And so the focus of today's webinar is going to be working smarter with our CRM. And I'm going to be assuming everyone here has had some kind of exposure to it, but just as a quick recap, our CRM is the system that really takes all of the stuff from our takeoff software, MeasureSquare 8 and MeasureSquare Mobile, and fills it into the rest of the flooring business, from managing sales to projects that are in production, purchasing, pricing, you name it. And a big part of our CRM is handling and automating a lot of the paperwork, the double entry, the 1 million different ways to run your business. That way your team can focus on the bigger problems. And two of the areas that we're really excited to really revolutionize are change orders and SOVs, or schedule of values. So as we dive in, I think the first thing we want to do is really quickly go over the structure of what we're going to be talking about. So first of all, I'm going to be going over a brief intro of why we decided to cover these topics today. And then we'll split the webinar into two halves, about 15 minutes each side. I'll be covering some of the big concerns that we have about change orders and how they're handled today. And then I'll get to show you how we solve that problem in our CRM. And then I'll hand it off to James, where he'll be able to rinse and repeat, give you guys the sort of walkthrough on schedule values and progressive billing, and then give you a demo of that as well. Once we're through with that, we can open up the floor for Q&A questions. And now, like I said earlier, I just want to repeat it. We'll have team members in the chat responding to questions throughout the webinar. But at the end, we'll have a chance to really spotlight some of those questions and share them with everyone, as well as just have a more organic conversation. So let's take a look at the bigger picture on why we're focusing on change orders and SOVs in our CRM today. So our team over the past couple of months has been working day and night to build really the first true one-stop flooring-specific CRM in the industry. And a big part of that process has been working alongside people from the industry like yourselves to tackle some of these problems. And as we see it, these two problems, which we consider the hardest, change orders and SOVs, technology really hasn't hit the mark on. And that's part of the reason why we hire people like James I over here that can make sure that everything that sounds good on a whiteboard and on paper works in the industry. And just as well, a lot of my experience is meeting with you guys, getting to interview and getting to learn about how you run businesses, again, so we can make sure that we're delivering the right product. And we think we would not be keeping that promise if we left out these two big features. And they're really complicated parts of the flooring process. And there's a big reason why technology's kind of missed the mark on them. And that's because they touch so many different sides of the business. Change orders typically take place after a project's been won, but they have huge effects on the budget and the sales side, which is stuff you really deal with before a project is awarded. So that means some solutions that only focus on the sales side never really touch change orders, and some things that only focus on the project management side don't have a scope on the budget side to really respond to this issue. As for SOVs, there aren't any softwares that can combine the precision of our takeoff data with every step of the process, from takeoff to purchasing and to billing. Our CRM does handle these projects start to finish. So when it comes time to build for your projects, our CRM already has eyes on every step of that process and just needs to pull it all together. So when the big question is, why do we focus on change orders and SOVs? It wasn't because we're the first people to think, oh my gosh, we should come up with a solution. The way we see it for our CRM is we're the only ones in the industry who can come up with a solution for these problems. So with that intro out of the way, I really want to dive deeper into change orders for a bit. And where this really starts is by understanding the issue that we have in the industry now. And we've seen it all before, where GC wants to add a room, replace a product, and then, maybe never mind, bring that room back. And on top of tracking all those change orders, you have to keep a tab on which ones are approved, which ones they're still negotiating on, which ones are thrown out. Before you know it, you're kind of lost trying to make sense of how your margins got squeezed to zero on a multi-million-dollar project. And the hardest part of this process is making sure that you're accurate and just as accurate on every change order as you were on your initial bid and proposal. Now, the best way to do that would be to use our takeoff software, obviously. But the hard part is a lot of people run our takeoff software with other systems that require them to export from our takeoff software, download it, re-import it, and then every time they make a change, do that whole process over again. And for the users that want to leave that mess behind and just stay on whatever software they're using, the trade-off is they risk calculations errors that could build up over time and cost you thousands of dollars. So the solution, as we see it, is by having our takeoff talk back and forth with our very own CRM. By tying our data back to MeasureSquare 8, we can reopen the drawing, make a quick change, and instantly have those changes shoot back to the CRM so that our change orders are precise and up to date. There's no need to export, import. It's just simply the two systems talking. And that can mean that the second I draw a room or replace a product, it shows up right in the office for everyone else who's on that CRM since it's hosted online. And our CRM also fills gaps in our takeoff software. So, on MeasureSquare 8 by itself, you get a lot of flexibility, but you can't really make quick change orders on the fly, like doubling a product just like that. So in our new CRM, you also have the option to make quick change orders. Say something organic like GC just wants to remove one product, you can quickly make a change order to get rid of it, or maybe he just wants to add a couple buckets of XYZ. So the CRM gives you the flexibility to make changes on the fly or to back things up with that really powerful takeoff software solution. And this all comes together in our system to produce a really seamless experience where not only do you have that freedom to create change orders, but you can easily see which change orders approved, has the budget gone up or down, and by how much. And even later on in the schedule of values module, where James is going to be pulling together all those different documents, you could pull change orders into your billing pretty much instantly. And so with that out of the way, I think we're going to switch over to the demo side for now. And for my demo, I'm going to be showing you guys how to build a change order in our system, both by using the powerful integration with our very own takeoff software. And then I'll show you how to make a quick change order on the fly, one of those ones where you just want to add a couple square yards of product. And then along the way, you'll see how our system facilitates this process, makes it so that you're never left wondering, where is my job at right now? I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the project side of the screen. James, just want to double check. Do you guys see the CRM on that screen, or am I missing the mark on that?
Yep, looking good.
Perfect. Now I'm going to assume that a lot of you are familiar with our software, but just to get this started, this is our sort of homepage where every one of these boxes is a different lead or project that I'm working with in my company. And so what I'll first do is dive into a sample project. And I've left this project pretty bare bones. And I did that on purpose because I want to bring your attention over to the right-hand side over here, where you can see my diagrams. What this means is that we had an estimator do a full takeoff of the property or the project that we're working on. It's got material, it's got labor, every line item in there. And then we've turned that into a quote. So basically just a proposal that we sent over contains every one of those line items just as they were in the takeoff. Now, let's say in this example, a GC reaches out and says, he wants to remove 4 of the rooms from the project. He wants to swap out some material. This sounds easy enough. And so the first thing I want to do is actually make these changes in MeasureSquare 8. So to get that started, I would just need to click these 3 dots. And from my CRM, I can open up MeasureSquare 8. Now I've already got it open. You can see these rooms here. And what I'll do is I'll make some quick changes. I'll maybe erase some of these rooms. And let's say, he wants a cheaper project. He's trying to cut margins. We'll replace this with our CPT2. And like I mentioned earlier, the two systems really talk hand in hand. So the second that I press the save button, you can see it's already sending it over to the CRM. And the best part is if I click into this takeoff right here, you'll see that it's going to update. It's going to remove those rooms and replace that product. So already you're getting this sort of instant conversation back and forth. Now the big question is, how do I make a change order of this? How do I explain these changes and really show a breakdown of the numbers? You can see the original quote made from this diagram. All I need to do is press this blue add button. Now it's going to ask me what quote do I want to attach this change order to. It'll show me any approved quotes that I have, and I'll click OK. And then you can see here, it's a really easy breakdown. It shows, hey, we've added a lot of square yardage for the CPT2. That's going to be $14,000. But you can see elsewhere, hey, we removed a lot of product. So we're taking away 65 square yards of this. We're removing the grout for those rooms. And so you can see the price drop over here. And just by saying, okay, I could pull those all over. And our system purposely lets you bring in both items that have changed and items that haven't changed in case I wanted to make a quick change on the fly, like, oh, by the way, we're just going to add 10 of this, code-based labor. What I'm instead going to do in this change order in this editing screen is actually just remove anything that hasn't changed, so I can just show a quick snippet of what we're looking at. And just like that, you could see a real big breakdown of what's being changed. So, we're getting a deduct of 19,000 and the GC gets a clear image. Okay, we're removing all these products, we're adding this product, the adhesive for it as well. And this is a really powerful tool. I've seen some examples where, a GC might try to replace a product to a cheaper one, but things like the labor and adhesive for it are more expensive. So they might be confused at why they're not seeing the price drop they expected. Right here, none of those questions exist. They could see a breakdown and you could explain it to them as well. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. And just like that, we have our first change order made. And so that's using our takeoff software. Let's give another example where, on our project, we have BV Johnsonite 1. Let's just say we wanted to add a couple more units of that. So I'll go back to my original quote. And again, this is what we originally bidded on. This is originally what they said yes to. And let's just say I wanted to make a change order, adding a couple units. From my quote, I could actually build a new change order. And in my change order, I can import the products that we had on the project. I can say, I just want to bring in this, nothing else. And we can say, I want a quick change. We want to up it to 50 boxes instead of 14. Easy enough. All I need to do is click save. And so just like that, in a couple of minutes, I've already made 2 change orders. And now the real question is, well, how do we track all this? How do I get this all into my brain so that I can figure out what's been signed, what hasn't? Well, typically in our system, you could actually email this change order out, and virtually people can do an electronic signature. And this gray ribbon here will automatically update to say that it's been sent, it's been viewed, and that it's been signed. And if I hop back into my project, we can see where that all comes together. So I'm back in that original project. I can not only see my quotes, but I can see both of those change orders that we have here as well. And what I could do is, and I want to bring your attention to this number right here, 86,000. I'm going to say that typically we would just wait for the GC to automatically sign this, but I'm going to actually click into here and manually mark it as accepted. And automatically, when I go back to my project, you can see that the price has dropped from 86 to 66. I can do the same for this change order as well. Sorry about that, I was sneezing. And so from here, we could track the status of different change orders, and automatically we can see that reflected in things like our project or our products. Now, this is pretty much a full walkthrough of the change orders as it is now in our system. And we already have a lot of users on the system today already seeing its benefits and how it runs their business. And part of this webinar is not just for showing off what we have already today, but to let you see where we're going down the line. So already we're working on ways to make this even more automatic, like making it so it affects things like pricing in case you did project-specific pricing, or having it talk to any labor orders. That way you're not accidentally sending a work order on work that's been changed. And that's a big thanks to the users we have on the system today. So they're always testing it out, giving us feedback and ideas for where they want to see it go next. And so a big part of this webinar is if you want to join that mission to take the guesswork out of flooring, you can reach out to us, become part of the group that's not only getting the benefits from change orders, but also driving it in the direction that it needs to go for the industry. And that wraps up the change order side of the equation. I'm going to hand this back over to James, where he could talk a bit about the schedule of values.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Brian. I'm going to share my screen here now. Right. And you should be able to see this now. Is that right, Brian?
Yep. Perfect.
Awesome. All right. I'll jump right into it here. So, guys, creating a schedule of values can be pretty challenging, even for projects that seem to be straightforward. When I was in the field, I was actually the lucky one who spent hours and hours playing with these spreadsheets to try and figure out the best way to bill out a given project. And it's definitely not just me. Many of our users have identified progress billing as a major pain point for them within their current systems. A good portion of the time, the numbers on the schedule of values and the payment applications end up becoming arbitrary. They just become loosely based on the numbers from your proposals, but not really tied to any true costs within the project. So many of our users have stressed the fact that there's usually some guesswork involved with creating their SOV and with tracking their job's progress each month. Even with all this guesswork being done, the process is still very tedious, and often it ends up consuming the time of management level users like PMs, your project managers, office admin staff, and your controllers. So that's that. And then also the ongoing task of maintaining your progress payment applications is a very manual process. This can be exceedingly time consuming, and some users have reported spending over 25 hours a month just on progress payments alone. Creating a new payment application in Excel is just an absolute nightmare. Pretty much to do that, you'd have to copy your spreadsheet, add last month's billing total to your total amount billed, and then finally you need to figure out what needs to be billed this month and enter that in. So a really, really involved process there. So, with all of your pricing data held in your project documents and your proposals, why is this SOV process so manual and so grueling? In MeasureSquare CRM, we try to answer that question with our automated schedule of values module. Utilizing line items from your proposals as a starting point, users can easily customize their groupings to fit their particular needs. The system can also calculate project progress each month by pulling in data from previously created purchase orders and work orders. As you may know, every payment application also needs to be entered into your accounting system as an invoice. When designing this tool, we took that into account. So creating an invoice from one of your payment applications takes only a few seconds and a couple clicks, so you can get that data into your books with virtually no effort. So to sum it up here, the CRM holds all the tools to help automate your schedule of values creation, as well as the subsequent progress payment billing. Now all that's really left to do is to see it work. So I'm going to head to that project screen that Brian brought you guys to before. This will probably look familiar to a lot of you guys. And I'm just going to click this SOV tab at the top. Kind of have a blank screen here for now. Then I'm going to click Create SOV. From here, we're just going to fill out our information as needed. I'm going to start with my application 0 and fill in each of these fields. So you notice we have a spot for general contractor, owner, architect. This is all your standard progress billing data that goes onto your form. Contract 4 is kind of a broad definition of your scope of work. Typically going to be some kind of flooring with our customers. And then just your billing period and your retainage amount. So from there, I'm just going to click Save, and moving forward here brings us into our actual schedule of values tool. So from here, we have the ability to import items from a bid, import items from a quote. We can add items manually using the Add Line Item tool, and then later on, of course, we could import your change orders and add them to your schedule as well. For the purposes of our example, I'm just going to import some items from one of our quotes here. And getting to this screen, the system will prompt me if I don't want to include any of the items from my quote, but I'm just going to bring in all the items here and click OK. So now we have all of our items added to our SOV, but of course, this is not how we want the document to look when we send it over to our clients. So the next step here is going to be to group these items up. So what I'm going to do is use the Add Group button on the right side here. And I'm just going to add 5 groups right off the bat because I already know I need my 5 groups for this particular project. And I'm essentially going to define these based on their trade. Get one for LVT, VCT, and then a group just for wall base. All right, so these are my bare bones groups. Each of them obviously has a price of 0 assigned to them right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag each line item into the correct group so that the pricing will congregate under that one line for when my customers are looking at this SOV. So this is a bit of a manual process here, and it does take a little time on a larger project like this. I kind of just wanted to show you guys the entire process start to finish because I thought it'd be useful for you to actually see how long this would take. So I am just moving each item line by line here into the groups. And we are talking about on the back end about implementing solutions to automate this part of it a little more. But really, it should never take more than a couple minutes on a very large project. And as you can see on this medium-sized project, we are pretty much done here. And that's going to be the last item. So now our 30 or 40 item proposal has been broken down into just these 5 groups where each of them totaled out under this scheduled value column. And if I open up one of these groups, you could see all these line items embedded underneath. So at this point, we have our scheduled values broken down, and that's the first half of our process done. So this is your schedule of values, your starting point. And we want to use this schedule of values to create our progress payment applications. So that next piece of the puzzle is creating that application number 1, And to do that, I'm going to go up to the top right here and click Create Next. So this screen is going to look very familiar to you guys. This looks just like our application 0 right now. But you can see up here, this is application 1. I'm going to change my billing period based on the new month that I'm in. And now I can actually start billing. So there's a few ways to do billing here. Essentially, you can do it manually, or you can use our automatic process for that. So just to show you how to do it manually, a lot of our customers are wanting to just manually type in percentages for each of their items as they complete them. So for example, let's say for this item down here, carpet install, we know we're 100% complete with this. I can go over to the percent complete column, click in here, and just type in 100. When I do that, it automatically calculates the price based on the data that's here. And the cooler part is it actually calculates the pricing on the group itself. So that 100% of that carpet labor item translated into 12% of my entire carpet group. So you could see all that reflected there, where your customer would just be looking at this grouping here and not the line-by-line breakdown. So that is the manual method. Now for more of an automatic solution, as I mentioned before, you can bring in your purchase orders and work orders, and the system will use those quantities to track your progress. So just to start here, I'm going to bring in a purchase order. This PO number 125 for 12,500. And as soon as I bring that in, you can see 2 of our groups have been affected here. So my carpet group is at 4.5% complete, and my LVT group is at 40%. And if I open one of these up, it looks like, okay, so my carpet adhesive item, I purchased 100% of that. And my CPT1 Shaw looks like I purchased about 50%, which translated to my 4.5 for the whole group. And looking down towards the LVT, we'll see something similar. One more cool thing about this, guys, is a lot of the times you'll hand this schedule or payment application to a GC, and then on bigger projects, government projects, union, they'll want to see some kind of backup for where you got these numbers, right? So we make that very easy within our system. If you open up this LVT group here, and I have this little eye icon in this line, this LVT adhesive line. If I click on this, this will actually list the purchase order that's responsible for bringing in this data. So now I know purchase order 125 is where I got that. And if your GC does ask for source documents on all of this information, that stuff is very within reach. So that's essentially one payment application done based on a purchase order. In this scenario, we are just starting a job. We purchased our Shaw material, and now we are going to move on to our next month here and import a work order. So just like we did last time, I'm going to go up here to this Create Next button in the top right. Now you can see we are going to be on application number 2. That period is going to be in July. And here we are right where we left it on our application number 1. And I'm going to go through the same process here and just instead choose a work order. So I'm going to bring in this work order 76579 for 7,700. And when I bring that in, you can see 3 of my groups were affected. Looks like my carpet went up to 20%, my LVT is at 54, and my wall base came into the game at 32% with that work order being introduced. So this is kind of my ending point for my second application, which is it's very simple. If you use the automated process, you already put in this work, right? You already built this purchase order. You already built this work order. So using that time you previously put in to automatically fill out this SOV is a big time saver. So now you guys have kind of seen the back end side and the back end process here. I want to show you really quick what your customer is going to be looking at. So to do that, I'm going to click this preview button. And that brings you to your client facing payment application. So this form will look very familiar to a lot of you guys. This first page is essentially a summary. The summary is based entirely off of those 2 payment applications that we just made. And if we did add any change orders, they would be added at the bottom of this summary as well. And scrolling down to our second page here, our continuation sheet, this is simply your line-by-line schedule. And this is going to exactly reflect what was made on our second payment application. So this is all, very, very familiar. This is very close to the industry standard here. And then from here, you also have the ability to instantly email it to your clients. And you can also create an invoice with just one button, which will bring all this information into an invoice to send over to your accounting team. So just one more thing I'd want to show you at this point, guys, and for that I'm going to go back into the project. But getting back into this project here, now we're on our SOV screen once again, but it is no longer blank, right? We have 3 lines here. We have our application 0, our schedule of values. We have a line for our first application and for our second. So those are all summarized right here. And if I want to enter one of those documents, I simply click on that line and we're right back into our SOV edit screen. So that's all I really have for today. Brian, I don't know if you want to get rolling back with this Q&A.
If you want to pull the slide back over to Q&A, we can talk a bit about that. It looks like we did a bit too good of our job at explaining these things. I'm not seeing too many questions come in. And so I guess what we really want to do is wrap this up and sort of show you guys that these are just some of the features that we're working on the CRM. Oh, and I'm seeing a hand raised or something. Or I think it was someone waving their hand at us. There it is. It's one from Patrick and one from Michael. Are you guys able to type anything into a chat or a Q&A and then we could read it aloud?
Yep, so that's a great question, Mark. Yes, this does. We do integrate directly with QuickBooks Online. Yes, so after, for example, creating an invoice, as I just would have from that progress payment application, you have the ability to sync your invoices directly to QuickBooks. It's a very smart integration. We've got some great feedback on it. You can also sync your quotes, purchase orders, virtually all your documents right over to QuickBooks Online only. We unfortunately are not going to be able to integrate with QuickBooks Desktop.
Awesome, awesome. And I see Patrick saying hello. So we got your chat there. All right. So first I see Isabella asking how we connect the takeoff with the CRM. If you want, actually, James, I could share a screen and do a quick walkthrough of that.
For sure.
Awesome. All right. And then double checking you guys can see my screen. Is that right, James?
Yes, it's loading. There we go.
Perfect. So our CRM tracks projects. So with any project, that's where you'd house everything from those takeoffs that you're talking about to any order forms or documents. I'll hop into one of our sample projects. And we have a little area for diagrams. You have 3 different ways to sort of attach a takeoff to this. And they're all going to be connected to MeasureSquare 8. So I could either create a new diagram from scratch. And from my CRM, I can open it up in MeasureSquare 8, send changes, and it'll actually, whenever I press save, talk directly to the CRM. I could also pull from my existing cloud diagram. So if you're on MeasureSquare 8 and you save stuff to the cloud, it'll show up there. And then also if you have a local file, you don't really want to use MeasureSquare's cloud, you could also import locally. So there's a lot of different ways to connect the two. And once they're, once I have a diagram in here, the two are pretty much talking hand in hand. And then I see Patrick has a question for in the future. Can we in the future use plan for progressive billing? Okay, so I'm guessing what he's asking, James, is if you could make progressive billing in advance for like the month that's coming. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I kind of took it the same way.
Yeah, perfect. And it all depends on how you use our CRM. So if you're the type of user where before a project even begins production, you've already got all your work orders listed out, you've got it all mapped out for when you want each one done. Same for deliveries. Our system lets you filter out. So you could have our system say, hey, pick all the purchase orders that are planned for June 1st to June 30th, and it'll pull that for you. And then Michael had a really good question. If anyone joined late or they want to see it, this will be posted on YouTube. And then just like James said, you can email him or myself and we can shoot you over a link to that or a copy as well. Large projects, I have, so Joseph said on large projects, quite a few jobs need to be broken down by floor, by material type, and by, material and labor for each material type. Is this possible? Those are all possible in our system. And that's a really cool feature called our bid function. So our bids are the initial proposal that you're going to make. And in that proposal, you could break things out and group them up by phase, by floor. You could do a little, trade breakdown where you could say, hey, here's all the carpet on phase 1. Here's all the tile on, floor 3. And the best part is once you've done it in the bids, it'll carry over. So if I build a purchase order, I could say, hey, I just want to create a purchase order for phase 1, a work order for phase 1. I only want to bill for phase 1.
Nisar, or I'm sorry, yes, Nisar. Yeah, we are working on a Stone integration right now, and that should be finished around Q3. I would say early Q3, and possibly a little bit sooner. So that's on the way.
Gotcha. And then Patrick is sort of clarifying on his thing where he said, can we highlight just one room that was done in the takeoff and then build it in from there? It won't be quite that workflow where you just highlight and then it'll spit out, the billing for that one room. It will be more like as long as in the bid you've shown that that one room is its own little folder, the system will talk. So that's more of a conversation of like, let us sit down with you and show you the best practices, and then it'll all make sense. And then,
Isabella, to keep track of leads, yes. So that's one of the main functions of the CRM. Brian was actually at that screen before. It's the project pipeline screen, which kind of has a bunch of columns, and each project is shown as a little box. Oh, and he's going back there right now. So yeah, so this screen would be used to track your leads, your opportunities, and if you click into any of these projects, you could track all the specifics in there. So yeah, that's one of the main functions of the CRM, keeping track of those new leads for your sales department, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on how this is working.
awesome. And then Benny Michael says he's currently using Pacific Solutions Job Runner, and then asking if we integrate with them. And so far with our CRM, just because it's maybe released, I would say like 3 or 4 months now, we've actually done integrations so far with QuickBooks Online, Zero Accounting. We've done some work with CF Data Solutions. So it's just a matter of once we get to the place where we can have that conversation, we will. We're always trying to keep the door open, and keeping an open API is kind of the name of the game for the flooring industry now. We're trying to make tech more open. But I don't believe we have any set date on when we directly be working with Job Runner.
All right, and Mr. Mark, can you add line items to change orders like restocking fees? That's going to be a
Absolutely.
yes, and any one of our documents has that ability where you can just add custom line items on the fly. Of course, so you have the two options, right? You could bring in data from your takeoff, quantitative data that you already measured, or you could just add lines or groups and enter the data in yourself.
All right. It looks like we are hitting most of the questions so far. So again, I wanted to thank everyone for joining the webinar. Not every day that me and James get to just lecture people on one of our favorite subjects, which is the CRM. So we really appreciate that. And if you guys have any questions, or if you're curious about trying or even seeing more about the CRM, please feel free to shoot us an email and reach out. I think a lot of these conversations are better in a room where it's, us getting to talk and get a lot of back and forth on it.
Yep, and I just want to thank all you guys. Also, this is my first webinar, and just to kind of reiterate what Brian said a little earlier, so our early adopters, our customers that we have right now, are playing a huge part to really decide how this CRM is being developed. So we really, your feedback is the most valuable tool that we have in making this system better. So if this sounds like something that your team would want to do, get in early and try and kind of help us develop this thing, please feel free to reach out to us. This is something that we're heavily involved in, heavily invested in, and will be for the next 5 to 10 years. So I'd love to speak to any of you guys about that. Please feel free to contact us.
Yep, and even in the crowd today, I see a couple of users where some of them were actually with us before we even launched this product. So big shouts to them. I've got some people who are actually just trialing our product and actually helping us develop some new parts of it as well. So awesome to see some familiar faces in here.
All right, Isabella, is there a free trial? Yes, there is. Brian, is it a 14-day trial?
So it's a 14-day trial, but that's always a very loose thing. We always try to make the trial fit to how you guys are comfortable with it. The last thing we want is someone buying a product that they're not sure how to use. So, one of those things where you get in the room with us, we'll show you how to use it, and then we'll craft sort of what your trial or pilot process would look like.
Mr. Tyson, can you run specific reports detailing dollar amounts of bids submitted, accepted, and in progress? So Tyson, to be honest with you, this is something that's going to be coming a little bit in the future, but we do have a way to analyze this data currently. You can view your projects in a list view and filter them. So you can filter out only your submitted, go to your bids page, only view submitted bids, and view that whole list, broken down and sort it however you'd like. So we do have ways to analyze that data currently, and then the exact functionality you're describing with the specific reports, that's definitely on the way.
Awesome. And then Patrick with another really good question. So he's asking if we have an option for time and material on site. So if something like a floor repair had to happen, And there's multiple ways to answer that. If it's the thing where you send out a work order and your guys show up on site and suddenly, the last crew left all their trash, they're just going to take it out and throw a $400 tag on that. That's one option. If it's a matter of a change order where you want to make some quick amendments, that's another way to handle those workflows. And that's all going to be improved in a bit. We're actually going to be connecting this CRM with a field management system. So basically, what you can imagine is having your field supers and your installers having an iPad that actually lets them take photos on site of what's going on, report how much work they've done and time as well. And that would talk to the office, basically giving your office guys eyes on what's happening in the field.
Could you please share me the link? Absolutely. So can we share links in here?
What we would do that was probably better. Well, you could actually email us, and what we'll do is we'll set you up because setting up on the trial does require a bit of legwork on our side just to make sure that everything's set up right. And then I guess, James, if you wanted to, you could actually drop the meeting link so she could actually even set up a meeting directly from here.
Awesome. Yeah, good idea. Right. Okay. So if any of you would like to set a meeting, feel free to use that link there from Calendly. That'll get you right on our calendar, and we can take it from there.
Patrick, again, with a three-peat of really good questions. Yes, the system is Job Tracker. We're going to be doing a bit of upgrading so that it's not just two different systems, but we're actually going to be fully integrating it into the CRM. No specific timeline on that, but that's sort of where our head is at the moment. And it's a really awesome system from what I've seen us drawing up so far, where, from the office, you can get eyes on live updates of what's behind, what's on schedule, any punch list items that pop up as well. And just to add a bit more context to Patrick's question, our CRM, if you purchase the highest tier, you actually get Job Tracker for free with it. So it's almost included as a package.
All right. Any other questions here, guys?
When is this going to be ready? Job Tracker integration. I'm not too sure what the timeline is. I would also say that's part of our, Q3 expectations. Michael, with a perfect question, how do you guys have a video that shows the sort of integration between QuickBooks Online and MeasureSquare CRM? I believe we have a video for that online already. And then James, I'll go and look for that and send a link to the chat.
Sure. All right. Anything else, guys? Feel free.
All right, Michael, I sent you that link, and everyone else could probably see it as well. It's just a YouTube link that shows a video that walks us through that.
From there, you can access our YouTube channel and our YouTube playlist. We do have a good amount of information on there. Also, if you guys want to take a deeper look, or if you'd rather see something live, feel free to set up a meeting with us at that link I sent earlier. And here it is again.
All right, looks like most of people's questions have been answered. We're going to hang around in this call for about, I would say, 10 more minutes, just in case anyone else has any last-minute questions. Hey there, Mark. So Mark is asking about pricing options. On our landing page, and I'll drop a link to that as well, you can see a breakdown of the different pricing packages we have. And I'll drop it in here. And you could review that. It's going to give you a basic breakdown, just sort of listing features and what is included in each package. Obviously, for a more detailed breakdown, we're always open to sort of sitting down with you guys and sort of walking you through which might be the best for you.
DI integration. EDI. Do you know what EDI is, Brian? Or
I
Emilio,
do
can
not
you
as well.
elaborate on that a little
Yeah, I'm
bit?
not too sure if that's like a flowing term or if that's a software called EDI. If you could just give us a little clue.
Okay, electronic communication of business messages such as orders and invoices internally between your own EDI system and own back office accounts. So essentially communicating with another system. We would have to speak in depth about this, Hermio. I don't think it's out of the question by any means, but we would have to get our integration specialist on and just make sure it's something we can accomplish.
Oh, and then I see Balin actually gave us a little clue as to what that is as well. Thank you so much. Nisar, and I hope I'm saying your name right, but I'd love to talk to you about the Stone side. We already have some people waiting for the second that CRM connects with Stone and having those two systems talk. So I can reach out to you after the show and we can maybe set up some time to answer those questions as well. All right. See you later, Isabella. All right. Looks like we're wrapping up. I think I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. And one last big thank you for everyone for your time. We really appreciate you guys giving us some time for the East Coast guys right after lunch when you're trying to get that break, and for our West Coast guys, nice and bright and early when the coffee's just hitting. So we really appreciate it. We look forward to next month. We'll try to do these webinars monthly. So looking forward to seeing you guys then. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.